All right, thank you. EXP University has been doing research interviews for our lead generation training series. Each different form of lead generation, we go out and find rock stars who are masters of that particular form of lead generation, and we pick their brains, figure out how they're doing things, why they do things that way, and so on. And we share that with you through the university training courses, but we also get to share some of these great conversations with you through BAM. So today I'm going to share a conversation I had with Peyson Robertson out of California. He did 100 open houses in 100 days. And now he and his team are doing 1,000 open houses in 100 days. And Peyson shared with us how he did it, why he did it that way, and the results that he got from it. Enjoy. How long have you been in the industry?
It'll be 5 years in August.
5 years. Where'd you come from before that?
I worked at Starbucks.
Nice. All right. So from Starbucks to crushing it in real estate in 5 years. That's awesome. So you do open houses. Is that the primary source of your lead generation or just one of those?
So at the time when I first started doing this whole, I started this whole open house thing, that was my only source of lead generation. Today it's changed a lot because now I run a team and we have other lead sources that I now pay for, and we have stuff like Zillow Flex and whatnot. But in the beginning, it was just solely open houses, and that's how I built pretty much where we are today.
Okay. And Leo quoted what is an unthinkable number. Do you want to share the number that he shared with everybody about you and open houses?
What I started with was 100 open houses in 100 days, and that's how my business exploded. Right now, we're doing a challenge of 1,000 open houses in 100 days with my team. So
Okay.
I think I'm trying to remember exactly how many I had sat. Last year, I think I sat somewhere just over 300 was what I sat personally.
Wow.
It was a really busy year. And this year we're doing the challenge with the team where we're doing 1,000 amongst the team in 100 days.
That's amazing. Now, it's not unusual to hear realtors doing a big volume of open houses, but usually that's done in a year's time, not 100 days time.
Mhm.
I'm curious, when you do things at scale like that versus doing, your standalone solo open house on a weekend or something like that, what's different?
So I think it's the consistency of the neighbors getting to know you and like people seeing your
Mm.
signs up every day. So because I'll be completely honest, like some days we would do them every day, and some days you'd get no one that would show up. But the thing was, is people were driving past your signs, and people, frequent the same area all the time. So then at some point, you've been sitting in the house long enough where people are all of a sudden like, okay, I have to go check out whoever this guy is. Like, why the heck is he sitting so many open houses? And that's why I'd get so many people through. And then those would turn into clients where they're like, hey, we want you to list our house. Like, we already know that you work your butt off. Like, we're ready to go. Like, let's work with you. So that's what I think helped me stand out when I was starting it out.
Okay. So as you started doing open houses, were they your listings? Were they somebody else's?
In the beginning, they were other people's listings, and then
Okay.
and once this started to kind of take its course, I started to pick up listings, and I started to do it for my own.
Okay. And what was that script like when you called that other agent to ask if you could sit there open?
So I learned that it was easiest. So what I would say, and this is from just learning over time, was like, hey, I would usually at first I started with calling, and then I just ended up texting because I realized it didn't make a difference. And I would just say, hey, this is Peyson Robertson with EXP Realty. I see your listing at 123 Main Street. Can I sit it Monday through Friday from 11 to 1 or 4 to 6? And the reason why I would always say Monday through Friday and not mention the weekend is a lot of times agents would be like, oh no, we already have the weekend covered. And they may not have the weekend covered. They just don't want to deal with it, or they don't want you to sit it. But no one has the weekdays covered. So what I would then find was people would allow us to sit for the weekday. And then, by Wednesday, Thursday rolls around, I'd be like, hey, can I sit the weekend too? And then they just let you sit the weekend. So it was
Okay.
more like a figuring out, because people, if you would just say, hey, can I sit in an open house? They'd be like, oh, we got it covered. And it's like, I know you don't got it covered for the weekday.
Yeah. Now, are these vacant then, most of the houses? That's what you're targeting?
Yeah, they pretty much need to be. And I'll give a good example. I had people that walked in to an open house I was sitting. They hired me to list their house and help them buy another house. It was the first two transactions I did during this 100-day time. They hired me because they wanted me to do it, but they lived in the house full time with an older dog. And like the dog was old and it was a big dog. And so I was sitting open houses for like 2 weeks for them in a row. They got over it super quick. And they're like,
Yeah.
hey, like, you could sit them on the weekends, or like you could even throw it on the MLS and like we'll sit here, but like we don't want to leave the house anymore every day for 2 hours at a time. So
Yeah.
vacant's by far the best way to go. Or like if it's like a recently flipped house, or a staged home, those are like your two ideals. So
Okay. All right, great. And when you think about like when you hold the houses open, so you said you were holding them weekdays 4 to 6.
mhm.
What about weekends?
Usually weekends would be 11 to 1 or 1 to 3 is what I found worked best for us.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I started with longer time blocks, like longer periods of time, and then I condensed it down to two. And most of it was because I started to get so many showings from all this that I needed time for showings. But the other piece
Mm.
that I noticed was like most people come within a 2 hour time block. So like you may lose, one or two people on, other end of like that time, but like most people come within a 2 hour time block. And if they see it's open on the MLS all week, they'll come at some point. Like if they want to see the house, they'll make time at, one day out of the week to go and see it.
Okay. And you're holding the same house open multiple times.
I try and sit the same house as long as possible. Like I had one house that I sat, I think, close to 100 days.
Wow. Why? Why would you do that?
All the sellers. So it's all like the people that live nearby that see your
Mm.
signs. And then like what happened was like if you sit in the same house or even at least the same neighborhood, and then you're cold calling the neighborhood because you're inviting people to the open house, people see the signs and they're like, oh yeah, I know your signs. Like I've been seeing your signs. Like, oh yeah, you're that guy. So it just starts to create that, everyone starts to recognize who you are. So it was that more than anything.
Yeah, in the digital world, we would call that an impression. I mean, you're making a brand impression on them. Um, I'm curious when you think about generating traffic to an open house, that flies in the face of conventional wisdom, right? Conventional wisdom says I'm going to hold it open once, and so I'm going to do a bunch of promotion and marketing to try to get as many people there as possible. That's not your approach. So maybe back me up. If you're going to hold a house open, how
Mhm.
far back are we starting? Right? Are you calling, or were you calling that agent, the listing agent, the week before, 2 weeks before? How'd
Mhm.
that go?
So usually I set every open house like fall. I usually set the following week up every like Friday or Saturday. So then it'd
Okay.
be what in some cases 48 hours or so, some cases maybe 72 hours in advance. So not too long, but then like if you compared Friday to the next Friday, that's a week in advance from that one. So I figured that would maybe Monday, sometimes people wouldn't see it, but by Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then going to the following weekend, they'd see it. So it was always just setting up Friday or Saturday before.
Now, I talk to agents. Some of them take the approach of, I don't care who shows up to the actual opening. It's just a reason for me to prospect around it. Some agents, they want to drive actual traffic as much as possible to the open house. Two kind of broad standards on different sides of the spectrum. What's your goal when you're sitting in open? Are you trying to just get in front of the neighbors, or are you trying to actually get people to come to you?
I'm trying to get as many people to walk in as possible because I feel like open houses are the only thing in our industry that's similar to like working at a car dealership and people,
Mm.
walking in, raising their hand and saying, hey, I want to buy something. So try and get as many people in. And we use really big open house signs because of that. So I use like a 24 by 36 A-frame sign. They're massive. Like, and so like you could see them, like, even if you're driving 60 miles per hour down the road, you'll notice my sign. I
Did you
noticed
say 24 by 36? That's really big. And is it branded to you?
like,
Okay. All right, great.
they have to have all my branding. They're all the same. They're all the black and white with it's Obsidian and EXP, and it has my name and my number, and all of it's big, so that way you could see it. Even if a lot of people where we live like drive like 60 miles per hour on regular roads, so like if you're using a regular 18 by 24 sign, they're going to blow right past it, and they're not going to notice it until they're literally passing it, and then it's too late. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to catch as many people as I can with those signs.
Okay. All right. And how many of those signs are we putting out?
Just 6, because
Just
I would do them every day, and doing more than 6 is a pain in the butt to take up and take down every day.
yeah. Now, with your 6, do you have a strategy, a formula for where you place them?
I like to look at Google Maps beforehand if I don't know exactly what like the busy, streets are. But it's pretty much just make sure I have one on the busy street, 1 or 2 on the busy street, and just enough pointing towards the house. That way I just get the arrows pointing people. But that's all it is. Just making sure arrows point people.
Okay. And then, in terms of promoting the open house, aside from the signs, is there anything else that you're doing? Are you doing social posts? Are you door knocking neighbors or anything like that?
So a big thing, and it doesn't bring, I've noticed, guests into the open house, but a big thing I do is a story on open house on Instagram and Facebook every day.
Okay.
And that's more for like the perception of showing people, hey, I'm busy, and hey, I'm doing stuff when others aren't. And then the other piece is we would use something like Mojo Dialer and then call the neighborhood and invite them. Besides that, there's not anything else.
Okay. And when you're inviting the neighbors, what does that script sound like?
Hey, this is Peyson Robertson with EXP. I'm sitting in an open house in your neighborhood at 123 Main Street. We're sitting it all week, Monday through Friday from 11 to 1 p.m. We'd love if you could stop by. And then I would just see what they say from there. And then I would like to usually ask, like, hey, what do you love about the neighborhood? What do you hate about the neighborhood? And then if I could get more out of it, hey, do you know, anyone that would be looking to move into the community? Or sometimes, you'd hit on the what do you hate about the neighborhood? And then maybe they end up talking about selling. So I
Hmm.
would kind of just take it from wherever there. And the whole point of the cold call really was just to have a conversation. And it didn't feel like a cold call because you're calling to invite someone to an open house. You're not calling them to sell their house. So it was a
Yeah.
much easier flowing conversation.
Okay. And are you just saying, "Hey, come to the open house"? Are you trying to capture their email stuff for your database or anything like that?
No, I'm just inviting people to the open house and seeing where the conversation goes.
Okay. And you mentioned your, I think you said story. What's the script for that sound like?
So I post like an infographic of the open house on my story. And then
Okay.
usually I would get to the open house and I'd flip the camera around and I'd be in it and I'd talk. And I'd just talk about what the house is, how long I'd be there, what times I'd be there throughout the week. And then I would do like maybe just a quick couple videos, like highlights of like certain parts of the house.
Okay. Like unique features or something like that?
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. And so, okay, so we've done the directional signs and the promotional signs. We've done the story. We've done some call outs. How many neighbors, by the way, are we calling around to?
Usually 100 to 200, I would say.
Okay.
Somewhere, if the neighborhood had up to 200 people, we'd do up to 200. If the neighborhood was a smaller one, we'd do 100.
Okay. Not door knocking, no.
No, reason being, when I started doing this, it was about 115 to 120 out every day. Um, and then
Okay.
by the time I kept doing it, it got too busy then to even want to door knock. So it was just like, okay, I'll make sure I do the cold calls, but it was too hot and then got too busy for the door knocking. But I have
Yeah.
agents on my team that do that and they love it and they're picking up deals from it.
Okay. They love door knocking.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And anything else we're doing to promote it before I ask you about the actual open house?
No, it's just make sure it's on the MLS. Use Instagram and Facebook, and that's more just, for perception of showing you're busy and then the cold calls.
Cool. Are you boosting those ads or retargeting or anything like that? No, just
I,
to
I tried and I don't feel like I got anything out of it, so I stopped doing it.
okay. All right. And so, before we get to day of, any other preparation that we're making? Are we, inviting DJs or anything like that?
No, so the open house itself was super simple. Simple. But the one thing I would make sure we do is with the house, a lot of people are going to walk in and they're not going to buy the house. It's just how it obviously works. So what I would do is like, say if it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and it doesn't have a pool, I'm going to look for
Okay.
all the 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses in that immediate area within the same price point that do have a pool. And then I'll look at the
Okay.
ones that are for the 4-bedroom ones that do versus don't. And I'll make multiple different links already saved in my notes on my phone. And I'll just have all those ready to go. Because then when I'm having conversation with someone in person, odds are they don't like this house. It's just the
Right.
way it works. So then I'd say, hey, what do you like? What are you looking for? And I've already made all these different lists of homes. And then I don't have to go and act like I'm digging for it or go try and dig while they're there. I don't have to say, hey, I'll send it to you later. I can send it to them right then and there through text, and then I capture their phone number.
Okay. All right. So we've done our homework on similar properties in the area that we can show them.
Mhm.
Are we calling any builders for inventory or anything like that? Just whatever's on the MLS. Okay, great. And then, so for the open house itself, are we doing flowers, cookies, ice cream truck, or anything like that?
No.
Okay. All
So
right.
it's the car sign-in sheet for open house compliance. It's the just the property flyers and the business cards, and that's it.
Okay. So in the property flyers, the same things you'd put in the sign box, basically.
Yep.
Okay. And you said car, I guess in your state, they make you use a particular form for the open house sign in.
They have like a particular form that they like us to use, so we just use that as like our sign-in sheet now.
Okay. And so day of, are we doing anything else? You said you flip the camera around. Hey, I'm going to be doing this for the appeal and allure of it. And then we're setting up our stuff inside the open house, our brochures and things like that. So what happens when the first person walks in?
Yeah, so I like to greet people at the door.
Okay.
And first thing I like to ask is, hey, how'd you find us? Like, did you find me from the open house signs or did you find me on Zillow or realtor.com? And then that's just kind of like to gauge, how serious they are. And then they'll tell me, and then I'll be like, oh, cool. And then I'll say, are you looking at this as like a home for you guys to live in, or are you looking at this as like an investment property? Then they'll go on, and that'll just kind of spark conversation. And I'll just start to just kind of follow them throughout the open house. Whether some people, want more distance, so you give them more distance as you do it. Some people are like just ready to just chat, so they just start talking. And it's just finding out what they're looking for, and like I just like to use the house as like I'm walking through, like, hey, like this is because a lot of times people come from the signs and so they won't know what the house is. And it's like, hey, this is 3 bedrooms. Is that ideally what you're looking for? Oh no, we're actually looking for 4 bedrooms. Cool. And this one doesn't have a pool. Are you looking for a pool? Oh yeah, we are looking for a pool. And then it's like, oh, I already have a list ready to go. Would you like me to send that to you that matches everything that you're talking about? And then that's when I will ask for their phone number and I'll text over to them right then and there. So that way I know I'm getting the correct phone number.
Okay. So we're walking with them throughout the property and we're building rapport and asking great questions. May or may not have gotten their phone number at that particular point. Where then do you take it as you're winding down the tour?
It's making sure I get the phone number and then setting up next steps with them. If I did get the phone number, if I didn't, it's still just trying to find some way to give some type of value to get the phone number. But I would say typically you get the phone number with how we would do it, and then it would be just talking about like, hey, like, and then it would get into financing and are you guys pre-approved? Are you cash? And then sometimes they would see houses that they'd like in that link that I sent them. So then we'd be setting up showings or working on setting up showings as they're leaving.
Anything else? If I were going to go do what you have done and follow your strategy, anything else you think would be helpful for me to know?
Let's see. I would say just the biggest thing that I'm watching with my own team is like making sure that you don't expect instant gratification from it. So I think
Yeah.
like people want like it to like change something overnight. And I mean, since I got lucky and it did help, like within a 100-day sprint, like it changed what I'm doing. But I've watched it for some people not change their stuff in a 100-day sprint. But if you look at it over a 6-month time period or a 12-month time period, it has changed their business drastically. So I think it's
Yeah.
like sticking the course is what's most important with this, and not being like don't go into this thinking, oh, I'm instantly going to get a deal. Go into this thinking like I'm building up a foundation for myself that's going to pay me for years to come. Because I still have leads that are turning over from 2-3 years ago from open houses that I set.
Isn't that funny? How do you do that? I mean, it had to have been daunting, maybe a little frustrating at times, especially as you waited for that hockey stick to hit. What was it you told yourself to keep going?
I would always just remind myself of the money that other people were making in this industry and that I wasn't. And I always knew that, like, okay, if other people can, I can do it too. So it's just, I knew if I stayed the course long enough that I could figure it out. And that's what I would just remind myself of. It's like, okay, if other people are making the type of money I want to make, I could do it too. I just gotta stay consistent.
That's awesome. All right. Any last piece of advice before I let you go?
No, I think that's it. It's the massive action and consistency. That's whatever we're doing, in our business, that's what it comes down to.
All right, there you go. I told you guys that was going to be a fire interview. That guy's just doing it a little bit different. So you want to go all in? That's the definition of going all in when you do a bunch of open houses like that guy did it. So sometimes it's just a matter of doing more of something and doing a large volume of something to really get the world to move in your direction. So it's like that with a lot of things. A little bit of effort sometimes can be really surpassed by doing a lot of effort in a very short period of time. So it's volume and consistency in a very short period of time. You can really make your business move. So love that interview. Thank you very much, Bryon. Thank you, Peyson. Appreciate that a bunch. Thanks for sharing everything you know. We love it that you're willing to collaborate and show us the playbook. So thank you for that.